Hi everyone, I'm Tim from RaceBiz. Welcome to the first edition of Racehorse Junkies, 100% real with RaceBiz. My friends call me the passionate punter. I'm an avid racehorse follower. My friend here, Gary, does it as a full-time job as a professional punter as well. This is how we make our living, and as I put it, it's a hard way to make an easy living. All right, so this is going to be a 30-minute segment we're doing each fortnight, which will be posted. In that segment, we're going to talk about tracks, jockeys, trainers, horses, black bookers, what it's like to do it as a professional, how to, doing just as entertainment. And Gary's going to come across and he will put his information up and let us know about how he goes about what he does. Gaz, take over.
Thanks, Tim. Really looking forward to getting into Horse Racing Junkies and going through a little bit more about the form and how I do it, your approach, but also some of the special guests we're going to have on, which will be, like you said, people who are in the industry from a betting point of view, who maybe even from breeding, pedigrees, bookies, etc. So it should be a really great series, and hopefully, most importantly, apart from being entertaining for people who are viewing, most importantly, we're wanting to educate people that racing is not just about, it's a great way of having a hobby, but it's much better if you can actually turn your hobby into being a profitable as well. And, hopefully down the track, they may be like you or I, which are doing it pretty much full time now. Because most importantly, though, to do that is you need to make a profit.
Yep, exactly. I agree with you there, Gaz. It's about the money management, the way you go about it, the way we look at racing, the different aspects that we go through, because you and I do it completely differently, but we still work it out down to a rating point of view. I'm more the Metro and Brisbane, Melbourne area, and you're New South Wales and Southeast Queensland. You like the country sort of meetings. You can explain to them how you go about it. And I'll talk about the fundamentals of racing over time, but I'm looking forward to it. It'll only be a 30-minute segment, so we'll just get in there and get it done for everyone. And if anyone has any questions, they can put it in the comment section down the bottom with it, and we'll try and answer these questions every time we come on.
Yeah, thanks. Look, what you said is right. Look, I find that I look for an edge, and while I do a little bit of the city stuff, especially now with the better tracks coming in the spring carnival for both for Sydney and Victoria, my primary over year on year is that I look for provincial country races in New South Wales, also Gold Coast and some of the southeast Queensland tracks. I take a different approach. Many years ago, I started a bit like yourself, Tim. I was doing from the old days of the Don Scott, nearly 40 years ago. But I've evolved mine now to do a lot more to do with speed. I still do class ratings. I look at sectionals, track bias, speed maps, and a lot to do with race pace and other data. And also, I spend a lot of time on replays to assist in making my final assessments. Look, I probably spend about 20 hours a week these days in post-race form, which I find as important as the pre-race. In fact, doing the post-race makes the pre-race a lot easier because it gives you a greater understanding of the why a horse won or lost or what's potentially coming up. And so I do look forward over the coming episodes to be able to talk more in depth about different subjects in those particular areas. And I think, as I said, it'll be very, very educational, hopefully, for people. And I do look forward to people sending in their emails or questions as well. And also attending, I know you have a webinar on a Tuesday as well, which is a great time for people to come in and ask questions, preferably send in the emails beforehand.
Yep. So we do one where everyone can join in on the Tuesday evening, 8 o'clock. A lot of guys do email in a few questions and things that we have a chat about. Like you're saying, you're the speedman. I'm also from the Don Scott era, because he was the one that really introduced full-on ratings into racing. I've never really changed in the 30 years in the way I do it. I'm more a class and overall form analyst in the way that I do mine. I'm not as much a speed man as much as you are, but the way that things have been introduced these days, you need to be open to how things are doing. Mine's basically done on speed rating, weight ratings, present form, 12-month form and class. And that's how I come up with my ratings. And I just find by using ratings, it gives me a much better aspect on how a race, statistically should come about, and what the finishing things are. There's a lot of information out there that guys tend not to look at, which is free. And there's a lot of information you can get from the right places that are really handy to use, because good trainers, good jockeys, and good racehorses keep winning races. So, Gaz, from your point of view, you do a lot more speed mapping.
Absolutely. And also, one of the other areas that I find, not only about doing the form, I have to get a price on knowing what is the right minimum price I want to take to bet any horse, but also I take a very much an investment outlook on racing. So I'm very much about following the markets. And most importantly, especially in the last year or so, I'm finding markets change dramatically in the last few minutes. And it's probably to do with the POT tax, etc. But one of the things we're looking at talking about is not only working out what horse to back, at what price, but also how to bet, how Betfair works, Betfair SP. There's a lot of different ways. So I think there's going to be a lot of great subjects we can talk about. And also, as we have spoken about, getting people on who are different to us, take a different approach. So it'll be great education, I think, for all involved.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's the best way too, is because, many heads make light work. I've got a lot of friends that do this, in the business, and they all do different areas, different states, different style of racing. And I think with the ratings, it points you towards the races where you can get good value, and the races where the favourite horses are definitely big standouts. And if you've got a price to work to with it, you know that whether you're getting value or not. Because to keep in this game, you've got to get good overlays at some stage. A lot of people say there's not a lot of value left in the industry. Well, at times I disagree with that, because it's for me it's price driven in everything.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree, Tim. And look, there's one other thing you and I totally agree with as well. A lot of people go out and they all remember their great days when they won. One of the things that anyone who's doing it properly, professionally, whether they've got a business or a job, but they're doing it, spending 20 hours a week as their hobby, everyone who is successful or makes any money have got one thing in common. We all keep records. We have to be able to track why we won and why we lost, and looking back in the past. Because it's no point just remembering your best day, because it's very important, just like if you're running a business. It's not about your turnover. At the end of the day, profit is king. So it's vital to be able to track exactly how you are going, month by month, year on year. And look, anyone who tells you they're winning all the time in racing, I can tell you, I've met a lot of people, and there've been a lot of people I know have been doing it for many years. Everyone you ever talk to who's successful will say one thing. You have terrible runs where the heads up, heads down go against you. And when it happens, it just keeps happening. Most importantly is you know what you're doing wins overall. You keep your records, and the variance takes care of itself, and you end up winning. And that's the most important thing. So, no matter if you're listening to somebody who tells you they win all the time, well, you can call them what you want to, but I know what I'd call them, and they're not probably telling the truth, because this is a tough game and you've got to work at it. But most importantly, you've got to know what you're doing and stick to it and take the right price, because once you start questioning everything you're doing, then you start betting under the price or whatever. There's only one result you will get. You will lose.
Oh, for sure. You have to be a shrewd decision maker. You definitely have to be a strategic thinker when you're doing this for a business. And when you're doing it, for me especially, is I have an end goal on every day. If I get to my stage where I'm behind, I know when to stop, and I know once I hit my strategy of what I want to earn for the day, I stop then. And it doesn't worry me if I'm that far in front. Good example, Saturday, I wanted to do 2 first fours, but I was hoping for a wet track, right? I wanted it to rain at Flemington. The first one I didn't do, the second one I did do. Well, the second one I got the trifecta, but the first one, which I didn't do, I wanted to do the first 4, and I wanted to rain. I still backed the horse, Travis, my friend. I had 7 horses in the first 4. I didn't do it. And of course, what did it do? It cost me. And it paid $57,000. That's twice in a year where I've had the numbers there and I haven't done it, and it's cost me immensely. So you learn by your mistakes.
Absolutely. Look, I ran a successful business for many years before I got into this racing game, although doing racing all the way through. Didn't have the luxury of doing it full time as I was running a business, but I can tell you the same approach to business you have to take to racing if you're going to do it properly. And it is about discipline, but most importantly, it's also about not trying. I've met some very good people I've found who do form, they do everything right, but the problem is if they're having a bad day, they try to get out on the last race. And quite often the last race is the worst race. And therefore they lose control. And they just keep betting more and more. The one approach I've taken all my life to racing is there's no such thing as the last race. There's always going to be another race tomorrow. And therefore, if I've done my form for a good 4, and all of a sudden it's pouring, raining, and they're all of a sudden going wide, you know what? That's it. Come back tomorrow. It's not a problem. Just rate another race and come back another day. Or if I'm having a bet, I stick with exactly what my plan was for what I want to bet. There's no difference for me, the last race or the first race. I know set what I'm going to put on each one if the right price and the market goes the right way. And if not, I'm happy to see my underlays win. It means I was right. I can't do anything about what price they're going to be. But what I can do is know that if I bet underlays, I will lose. And the same as I'm not interested in tips. Know a lot of friends who own horses, whatever else. And look, a lot of people do well, and it's a great thing that people own horses and everything. We need that. But what I have found is that people who do that become too biased. You know, I follow AFL myself, but I will never bet on my own team because I'm hopeless. We all fall in love too much with our own team or our own horse. Therefore, the best thing that I do is I take like Tim does, when I start rating a race, I have no bias towards any horse in that race. That's what works. It's all mathematics to me. It's all figures.
Yep.
And that's the most important 100%. Thing.
Yep. Because the way I always say to someone, they give me a tip, what price should it be? And they go, why is that? And I say, well, if I walk the TAB and you say 5 to 1, they're offering me 2, so I'm not going to back it, am I? And the other thing is, what about the other 15 horses in your race? What do you know about them? And they go, that's
right. Yeah, look, I've got a friend who has got a particular couple of horses, and he sometimes calls me to go and ask him an assessment on his horse because he goes, I won't be biased because if I do the form, he knows, and it doesn't come up anywhere, he's happy because he knows if he calls other people who may do the form, in their head, they're trying to keep him happy. But really what you've got to be able to do when you approach the form all the time is take the same approach to it and look at every horse on its merits. And look, even though there's long shots, I still look at every horse. You don't spend as much time because certain ones pretty quickly you can see you've got no chance. But at the end of the day, you've got to look at every horse because you are rating each horse and their own particular assessment in whatever figure you're doing mathematically. And that's the difference between someone who's a tipster only looks at the top 2 or 3. Yep. Yes, I do look at jockeys and trainers and all those combinations, but quite often there's a lot of variances and a lot of stuff that we'll be talking down the track of ways of looking at it. And one of the great things I find with racing, knowing quite a few people who are probably doing not dissimilar, but you can get, and I have quite often got into a room where there's 5 or 6 of us, and you know what? We've all come up with different horses in particular races because everyone does it slightly different. And it only needs half a point here or a point there, whether you're using kilos, you're using points, it doesn't really matter. As long as it's consistent, you're doing your markets. We all have great days. We have bad days. As I said, the most important thing is that you're tracking your records, that preferably I run to a punting bank, that you're running to a percentage of your bank, you're betting properly, and what you're doing is also not going to affect the way you live because, that's the problem with people who try to get out on the day is it will affect what's happening in your life if it gets to you that stage. And therefore, racing is not the way to go. You've got to take the approach that, there is the end of the day. That's it. Come back tomorrow. And that's one of the problems with people who play any casino game. If you're playing roulette, you know what? They keep spinning hundreds of times a day. So you never know when to get out. The odd people I know who have made money out of casinos, they've gone in with an approach very similar to say, I'm doing this at this time where I'm at, or when I'm in front at this level, I'm walking away. The discipline to know when to leave and when to stop and when to bet or not is the difference between winning and losing. as well as having the right backup and mathematics behind you.
Yeah, when to bet and when not to bet is one of the biggest disciplines in horse racing. You know, a lot of guys go, how do you know what races? Well, you know, if you look at the Don Scott point of view, his was proven racehorses win races. And that's what it is. You can follow proven form, but when the early ones, they can change a bit of gear and it can change the whole dynamics of a race. You know, I've been a punter for over 40 years, and that as a little young fella, like I do it as a tipping service now. With the way that, with my tipping service, I put ratings on every horse I put up. I do the money movers. And if you want to be successful at it, you have to do some work. Even if you get information of someone, you still have to do your own homework. And you need to keep account of everything you do. All right? Because that way it tells you where you're winning, where you're losing, what style of punting is suiting what you're doing, and then you can work out a strategy with it. Like you like the New South Wales and the country tracks. I'm a big fan of, like the Melbourne metro tracks. I like some of the country tracks a lot. And like you say, you're going to have good days, you've got to have bad days. So if you don't manage your money well, chasing in the last couple of races is just going to cost you in the long run.
Absolutely. Look, one of the things I look at is I'd rather back the winner of the Griffith Cup at $5.50 than betting the winner at Randwick at $3.50. At the end of the day, I look at it, what's my return on investment, and I do find it, in a lot of cases, easier to back the winner at $5.50 in Griffith. That's why I look at those, because if you really look at it as well, all your newspaper tipsters and everything, there wouldn't have been anything in any of the Melbourne, Sydney or Brisbane metropolitan papers on the weekend about the Griffith meeting, which I did. Therefore, there was really good value because there's less people in there. That's why I do specialise a lot in those particular markets, because there's, everybody is absolutely in Australia, and in fact all over the world, maiden carnivals. But there is good money to be made in those maiden carnivals. But it is about the mathematics, and whatever you're doing works. The other part that you mentioned then, Tim, about exposed form, look, and one of the things I'll be talking about over the coming episodes is I take a different approach to maidens, class 1 and 3-year-olds, which is more leaning towards speed and sectionals and all that, as opposed to exposed form horses, where it leans a lot more towards class and all that, because you can work out where they're at. When a horse gets to a certain level, and they've been racing a lot, especially when you're talking country provincials, there's not a lot for them to go, as opposed to those youngsters coming through in the 3-year-olds, especially in town or that. And in maidens, it's very hard early until they've had a few runs from those maidens to work out how good that maiden really was. There's a bit of potential there, but it's the post race that tells you where they go on to, and then of course that shapes the class 1. So I take a different approach. But again, that's something we're going to be talking about in upcoming episodes. So looking forward to it.
Yep. All right, mate. So that's what it's going to be about. And things, I've got my Black Booker section going up later on, which will probably be later on today or tomorrow. I'll post this. I'll send you the information. You can have a look at it, Gaz, and then we'll go from there. So, guys, after this, in the comment section down the bottom, there'll be a link there for you to be able to go to our website and be able to pick up the our ebook, The Golden Rules of our tech system for doing the form, and that, which also has an Excel spreadsheet, so you can work out every race that you want to do. And it's just something a little bonus for everyone that comes on and watches what's going on. So that'll be, you can grab that after you've watched this. So, Gaz, thanks for coming on, mate. So
I look forward to the first episode.
Yes, thank you. And I'll probably see you tonight.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, mate. Have a good day. Talk to you soon. Happy punting.
Thanks.